All right, I wanted to give you a quick update on the orange hive. Before we do that, I want to kind of go back in time and see how it is we got to where we are today. We were going through the blue hive, just doing a queen check, looking for resources, make sure everybody was okay, about 2 weeks ago when we had a nice day. And in that hive check, we found several capped queen cells. Now, if you remember, a week before that we did an inspection and I dropped a frame of bees on the ground and I thought, okay, wait a second, I'm seeing these queen cells. Maybe when I dropped the frame I lost the queen or stepped on her or something. Even though it was a bit quick for them to have fully capped queen cells ready to go already. And if you also remember, when we were in the blue hive, we found a virgin queen. She was walking around, she was piping, she was letting other prospective queens know that she was the first out, she was in the hive, and she was looking for other queens to go around and kill. So with that being the case, I figured, okay, it's a little early in the season, but we're going to go ahead and try to do a split. Last year I did several splits. I did 2 of them, to be exact, because I have 2 new hives and I didn't purchase any new bees, and they were successful. So I thought, you know, I've got this. And again, second year beekeeping, I guess I'm kind of cocky because it was so easy last year, but last year the splits were in the middle of the summer when there were a lot of resources out, there were a lot of bees flying, they were in the mood to expand their colonies. This seemed like an emergency situation for the blue hive. So with that said, I did a split. In hindsight, I shouldn't have, but that's a different story. I did the split. I moved 3 frames of brood with nurse bees and the queen cells into the blue nuke. What I didn't put in the blue nuke, and this is something that I should have put in the blue nuke, is I didn't put any resources in there. I should have grabbed a frame with pollen, and I should have grabbed a frame with some capped syrup or capped honey in the blue nuke, and I didn't do that. Now, considering the time of year it is, resources are scarce out there. The bees are bringing in a ton of pollen, but they're not bringing in any nectar. There isn't any out there. And this is where I believe I made the mistake, compounded with the mistake of not putting any resources in the nuke. After I was finished, I came up to the house, I made a jar feeder, an entrance feeder of sugar water, and I put it on the blue nuke. That mistake, coupled with the fact that the bees that were in that blue nuke came from the blue hive, which means, and I should have remembered this from last year, that when you shake a bunch of bees into a hive, about half of them will stay and the other half will fly back to their original hive. So couple that with putting sugar water on the front of the hive, huge mistake. No resources out in the wild. The bees that were in the blue nuke filled up on the sugar water from the jar feeder, left the nuke, flew back to the blue hive, told their sisters, hey, there's food right next door in this little box. Let's all go over there and get it. At that point, the robbing situation was on. Now, over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, I have been consistently putting buckets of sugar syrup inside the orange hive. I moved the bees from the blue nuke into the orange hive, gave them heat, gave them everything that I thought they would need, some space, some drawn out comb. I thought, okay, the queen cells are going to hatch and they're going to need a place to live. We'll start the orange hive. So I did. And I've been consistently putting the sugar syrup on the orange hive. And the bees have been drinking the sugar syrup. But I've also noticed that there's a ton of bees trying to get in and out of the hive. And it was just bedlam. It was crazy. And I properly diagnosed it as being a robbing situation. These bees were being robbed out by the blue hive and nothing that I could do would stop it. I eventually got to the point where I gave the bees some fresh syrup and then I completely closed off the orange hive, shut it off, and I left it shut for 3 days. 2.5 days, 3 days, left it completely shut, and just left the bees that were in there hoping that the queen would hatch and that the bees that were in there drinking the syrup would kind of adopt the orange hive as their home and do two things: start backfilling some of the comb with some nectar, some sugar syrup, so that they would have resources. And two, I wanted to see those bees in that hive start guarding that hive. So on Tuesday of last week, I came out Tuesday evening and I opened the front entrance to the hive, and I opened it all the way, but I only had the small hole on the entrance reducer open, so there two bees could get back and forth, going in and out. And when I did that, bees came piling out of the hive. It was almost like a waterfall, just tons of bees coming out of the hive. And I thought, okay, well, maybe they just want to get out there. And when they came out, a lot of them were doing orientation flights, it looked like, around the orange hive. A big swarm took place in front of the orange hive. And I thought, okay, this is pretty good. But then I saw it. I saw several bees leave the orange hive, fly up, out, and then right into the blue hive. And I knew when that happened, the robbing situation was going to be on again, because there was still a half a bucket of sugar syrup in that hive. So what I did is I immediately went over to the entrance reducer and I closed it off with everything except for one small hole where one bee, single file, could get in and out. Now for the next couple of days, that's how I left it. And I kept the sugar syrup on the hive, kept them fed, and I noticed that the bees were still bustling and trying to fight to get into the front entrance, but there was only a small ball of bees around the front entrance, and I thought maybe it's the bees from this hive trying to get in and out, and I just didn't leave enough room for all the foragers to get in and out. It's normal traffic. Well, this weekend, I think it was Friday afternoon, I went out to the hive and I noticed that there was a guard bee on the front of the hive. I'm thinking, man, this is good. There wasn't a lot of traffic, just a bee here and there going in and out. And I saw a guard bee standing out in the front. So I immediately assumed that, hey, we've reached our objective. This hive is self-sustaining now. It's taking care of itself. So my plan was to go through the hives later in the day when it warmed up. And in going through the hive, I was surprised. The very first thing I did was open up the orange hive. I wanted to see if the queen had hatched, or any of the three queens had hatched. I wanted to see if they were backfilling, storing anything, and I wanted to see if there were any nurse bees taking care of the remaining brood inside the hive. So I got in the orange hive first during my hive inspection. Right, I went through all of the hives, but I did the orange hive first, and I decided, because of what I found in there, that we're just going to make an entire video on the orange hive and kind of let you guys know where it is. And we'll just look at the hive inspection for the other hives later. So I opened up the orange hive, and the bucket was almost empty. I would say there was about maybe a quarter of the bucket of sugar syrup left, and the last time I believe I filled it was Thursday night. So the bees were still drinking it, a lot of bees drinking it. But, like I said, the frenzy to get in and out of the hive had stopped. So I took the bucket feeder off, and there were a lot of bees up underneath of the screened shim that I used to feed. And they were all trying to get out. And the activity was crazy inside the hive. Not so much on the front door of the hive, but inside the hive. And when I took that off, a lot of bees, airborne, and a lot of the bees went right back to the blue hive. That's when I knew I had a problem. So I did my inspection. I was looking for the queen. I was looking for signs of life. And I found none. The orange hive, it failed. You know, rest in peace to the orange queens that may or may not have hatched. I found, upon taking some of the frames out, a lot of dead bees in the bottom. Apparently the bees were trying to defend what they had, and they defended them right down to the last bee until they were completely overrun by the blue hive. So the orange hive did not survive. I tried a lot of the suggestions that a lot of you told me out there, and some of them seemed to work, and at the end I thought we had the situation licked, and I thought the orange hive was going to live, but the orange hive did not live. It is over with. I've pulled the hive back inside, and it did give me the opportunity to build the pad for the new hives when we put them out there. but the orange hive didn't work. So with that said, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for all the comments and suggestions on the whole saga with the orange queen and the orange hive. I really thought we were going to do something there. I thought it was going to work. It didn't. But we will try again this spring when we have to do another split. But again, thanks for watching. Thanks for the likes, the comments. Thanks for those of you who have subscribed. I do want to leave you with a little something, because during my hive inspection, I found some more queen cells. So now we have a purple hive, but we've done this one differently, and we'll talk about that later. Have a great day. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing, and I will see you next time. Thanks.